The following episode features a historic article from the Nebraska History magazine. This article may reflect the language and attitudes of its time, and while it offers valuable insight into the past, may contain expressions or viewpoints that are outdated or offensive by today's standards. Any outdated terms do not reflect the current views or perspectives of the Nebraska State Historical Society. Welcome to the Nebraska History Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Goforth. Each episode, we explore articles written and published in Nebraska History magazine. As another baseball season begins, we look back at the nearly forgotten story of a professional Lincoln baseball team. Today, we learn more about the racial barriers and the financial turmoil that the team and players faced through the 2015 Nebraska History magazine article, The 1890 Lincoln Giants, Professional Baseball's Unlikely Return to Nebraska's Capital City, written by Kent Morgan. By any reasonable standard of their place and time, William Lewis and William Pope were top-notch waiters. The duo practiced their trade in the well-appointed dining room of the strictly first-class Millard Hotel, which graced the northeast corner of Douglas and 13th Street in downtown Omaha. Their evolving friendship soon included a shared residence at 1612 Jackson Street, just a half mile from the hotel. The unassuming boarding house offered convenient and affordable lodging, as well as time together to ponder opportunities beyond their otherwise prosaic vocation. The pair shared a vision endured independent of their daily routine. Simply put, they longed to be proprietors of a professional baseball team. From a distance, their vision seemed credible. William Lewis knew and enjoyed the game of baseball. Over the prior 2 years, he performed admirably for the Lafayettes, a respected Omaha area amateur baseball team. During the 1889 season, Lewis's Lafayettes competed forcefully against town squads from across Nebraska, leading the Omaha Daily Bee to proclaim, quote, "They now stand at the head of the amateur club of the state," end quote. William Pope complimented Lewis's athletic abilities with his business acumen. Pope took well to commerce, owning a healthy aptitude for business creation and management. His people skills served him well in his present occupation as a waiter, but he harbored thoughts of other realities. Fulfilling their vision would not be easy. It demanded assembling a squad of talented baseball players, along with the requisite financial backing. They did not want a barnstorming squad of vagabonds, but rather a bona fide company of athletes who would compete within a league against the foremost teams in the region. When all was said and done, Lewis expressed their mutual intent to do all within the duo's, quote, power to make the club a success, both financially and artistically, end quote. Should this yearning not present enough challenges, William Lewis and William Pope were beset with potentially an even greater trial. As Providence would have it, both men were African Americans. Being African American, as the 19th century drew to a close, the pair found themselves saddled with centuries of inherited racial enmity. 25 years removed from a tumultuous civil war, America still faced a host of pernicious forces. Bigotry and intolerance already divided the nation, ushering in the era of the discriminatory Jim Crow laws. Within 6 years, the U.S. Supreme Court's landmark ruling in Plessy versus Ferguson would affirm the constitutionality of separate but equal facilities. Baseball was not immune to this national trajectory. Black baseball players were systematically marginalized from the game's mainstream. Baseball's formal racial divide first emerged in 1867 when an amateur African-American baseball club's application to the National Association of Baseball Players was unanimously rejected. The association subsequently established a rule excluding, quote, the admission of any club which may be composed of one or more colored persons, end quote. Other discriminatory maneuvers followed, including outright bans on black players and on-field incidents meant to force African-American players from the dawning professional game. If prejudicial racial attitudes were not disadvantageous enough, Nebraska's demographics presented additional hurdles for the two energetic waiters. The 1890 U.S. Census identified little more than 1 million inhabitants in the Cornhusker State. Of these, less than 1% was, quote, persons of Negro descent, end quote. Only 8,913 African Americans of a nationwide aggregate of almost 7.5 million claimed Nebraska as their home. And with few exceptions, the preponderance of Black Nebraskans worked as domestic servants, barbers, hairdressers, and hotel workers. Were William Lewis and William Pope embarking upon a foolhardy undertaking or a compelling quest? Consider for a moment the prospects of late 19th century professional baseball team located in eastern Nebraska that would be composed entirely of African American players, performing under an African American field captain, overseen by an African American business manager, owned largely by a consortium of African American entrepreneurs with two young African American waiters, leading the effort to form a previously non-existent baseball league to be made up, with the exception of their squad, of nothing but, quote, white teams, end quote. This improbable storyline forms the remarkable narrative of what would ultimately become the 1890 Lincoln Giants and the return of professional baseball to the capital city. Although Nebraska enjoyed a time-honored interest in the sport, professional baseball did not come quickly or easily to Lincoln. The city's first professional team played its inaugural game on May 5, 1886, a 6-0 loss to the Reds of St. Joseph, Missouri. The team's sponsor was Harry Durfee, who had launched a streetcar service in the capital city on November of 1883. Within a few years, Durfee decided to pursue the national trend of marrying streetcar operations with baseball. In late 1885, he leased 40 acres south of 17th and South Streets from the president of the Burlington and Missouri Railway. Within days of the lease's signing, the Daily State Journal reported Durfee's company was, quote, bidding up a baseball ground in connection with their park and skating rink enterprise in South Lincoln, end quote. With construction of the playing field on the horizon, it was time to form a baseball club. In early 1886, the Lincoln Baseball Association was established with Harry Durfee named as the manager and co-owner. The team found a home for the 1886 season in a 6-team Western League. Internal team dissension, second-rate management, and deplorable playing field, along with a want of publicity, plagued its performance. The squad finished the season dead last in the Western League, some 23 games behind league-leading Denver. Attendance at home games never met expectations, even though Durfee eschewed Sunday games, offered fans in carriages free admission along the right field line, and provided a smoke-free section for women patrons. While the baseball venture may have stumbled, Durfee looked to cash in on his successor streetcar franchise. In early November of 1886, he sold the entire streetcar operation, including the baseball team, to a local syndicate for the handsome sum of $65,000. The new owners reorganized the Lincoln Baseball Organization in the spring of 1887 to enhance its financial viability. A refurbished squad led by the team's new manager, Dave Rowe, brought a renewed enthusiasm to the city's baseball followers. The team rebounded by finishing second in the reconstructed Western League, posting a 62-34 record. The success of Rowe's 1887 team spawned a local baseball epidemic of unprecedented proportions. Optimism ruled the start of Lincoln's 1888 baseball season, although this optimism proved fleeting. Shifts by various franchises resulted in the creation of two separate baseball confederations, the 5-team Western League with Lincoln as a member, and the stronger 8-team Western Association. Following the city's taste of first-class baseball the prior season, Lincoln's entry into the Western League paled in comparison and was panned by locals as the, quote, low-priced team which represents the city in the low-priced Western League, end quote. The Western League folded on June 6th, and Lincoln's initial taste of professional baseball came to an abrupt end. Despite efforts to field a team for the 1889 season, professional baseball in Lincoln was not to be enjoyed. Participation in a possible state league was pursued, but was, quote, abandoned by the cranks in this city, end quote, in April. Local businessmen and city officials concluded that the absence of a suitable venue was a major hurdle toward fielding a team. In the April 21st edition, the Daily Nebraska State Journal remarked, quote, Until good grounds are secured, it is not likely that many good games of ball will be seen in the city, end quote. Efforts to remedy the situation began in mid-May as work progressed on a new baseball field along the Capitol Heights Street Railway in the vicinity of 22nd and Randolph Streets. Endeavors to salvage the 1889 season proved of little avail. One newspaper headline pronounced, quote, "Deprived of baseball, they turn their attention to lacrosse, tennis, and bicycling," end quote. As 1890 began, prospects for professional baseball in Lincoln were lackluster, even though the city once again had the baseball fever bad. Rumors surfaced regarding a possible Nebraska State Baseball Association comprised of teams from Lincoln, Fremont, Beatrice, Grand Island, Kearney, Plattsmouth, and Hastings. Columbus, Seward, and York would also later be considered as potential league sites. A similar scheme had surfaced in advance of the 1889 season, quote, with the exception that Lincoln was not included in the list, end quote. Missouri's The Sporting News observed how Kearney, Grand Island, and Hastings each fielded viable clubs in 1889 and had ready-to-use ballparks, while, quote, Lincoln had a good park that would be a great deal better if enlarged a little, which no doubt will be done if this city enters a league, end quote. Serious discussions about a new Nebraska State Baseball Association gained momentum. Nebraska's newspapers reported, quote, exceedingly good prospects, end quote, for the league's creation, although a wrinkle had cropped up. A separate group led by Hastings businessman O.H. Gordon began championing the creation of a tri-state league. The league would include a North Division representing the Nebraska cities of Lincoln, Kearney, Grand Island, Beatrice, and Hastings, and a South Division with Atchison, Topeka, Leavenworth, and Wichita, Kansas, and St. Joseph, Missouri. Gordon's Tri-State Confederation, however, excluded the Nebraska cities of Fremont and Columbus, two stalwarts backing the state-only league. As discussions progressed, this proviso would prove fatal to the three-state league concept. Fremont appeared ready for professional baseball. The city's newspaper, the Tribune, energetically promoted the town's entry into the proposed Nebraska State League. Local support came principally from W.H. Harrison, a Fremont business executive, whose participation lent credibility and financing. To spearhead Fremont's baseball interests, the town retained William Lewis and William Pope, the two young African-American waiters from Omaha's Millard Hotel with baseball ambitions. This arrangement meant the Fremont Club would be an all-black team playing in an otherwise white league. Both sides signed on to this accord. Lewis, the team's presumptive field manager, wrestled with how best to assemble a talented squad. His logical starting point was the Lafayettes, Omaha's champion colored team, for whom he had played. However, the Lafayette's roster drew entirely from employees of the Millard Hotel, mostly waiters, porters, and cooks. To be competitive in a professional baseball environment meant Lewis's talent search unavoidably extended beyond the Lafayettes and Omaha. Complementing Lewis's role, Pope's task required working closely with representatives from the other towns of the proposed league. From the start of the year, Pope crisscrossed the entire eastern half of the state by train, meeting with business and community interests to instill confidence in the league's viability. Hailed as an efficient agent, Pope's hard work and organizational acumen helped him gain the respect and trust of Fremont's hoped-for baseball partners. Meanwhile, in Lincoln, enthusiasm for a proposed state league trumped results. The first formal meeting about reviving baseball in the city was held on February 17th. On that cold Monday evening, the local real estate exchange set aside space for the expressed purpose of, quote, securing good baseball for Lincoln this coming season, end quote. The meeting organizers sought to form an association which will back a Lincoln club, along with taking the steps necessary to organize the state league. Leading the city's baseball offensive was Frank H. Woods, a University of Nebraska law student, who was, quote, doing a great deal to bring this matter before the people, end quote. Regrettably, attendance at Monday's meeting fell short of expectations. A 3-member committee was established to solicit subscriptions for a new team, with another meeting slated for Friday, February 21st, in hopes of larger attendance. Friday evening's gathering brought a surprising twist. Charlie Hoover, a well-known member of Lincoln's 1886 and 1887 squads, presented an unforeseen and, some might say, perplexing proposal. Hoover offered to secure the services of 10 players who would become Lincoln's 1890 entry into the proposed state league. Citing specific players, Hoover projected their salaries would range from $65 to $125 per month, with an aggregate player salary obligation of $4,575 for a 5-month season. Hoover promoted the concept by stating this amount ran well under the $14,550 salary paid to the 1887 Lincoln team over their 6-month season. The meeting participants referred Hoover's proposal to its soliciting committee with a request for a future report. While Lincoln's baseball proponents continued their work, William Pope continued his odyssey across the state. He scheduled a return trip to Lincoln on March 6 with hopes of furthering the capital city's struggling efforts. The March 6 discussions went well, and faith in the coming season remained high among Lincoln's baseball zealots. Optimism also reigned in Fremont, where Pope's labors resulted in articles of incorporation for a Fremont Baseball Club, which were forwarded to Lincoln in mid-March. The articles provided for a capital stock of $3,000 divided into $10 shares, with the subscriptions contingent on the formulation of the state league. Belief in the prospects for a new state league soared anew as Pope extended an invitation to 9 Nebraska communities to attend a baseball convention to be held in Fremont on Tuesday, March 25th. The town's spacious Eno Hotel would serve as the venue. The agenda called for electing officers, adopting league rules and regulations, setting salary limits and club guarantees, and laying out ways for controlling team movements and actions. The March 25th organizing session seemingly went off without a hitch as the Nebraska Baseball League came into existence. The cities represented included Kearney, Grand Island, Fremont, Plattsmouth, Seward, York, and Lincoln, with Hastings and Beatrice subsequently expressing interest. Fremont's W.H. Harrison was elected the president. Colonel A.J. Shepard from Kearney was made secretary, and Dr. H.C. Miller of Grand Island would serve as the treasurer. Each team's salary cap was set at $700 per month, with the visiting club receiving $40 per game and the balance of the gate receipts going to the home club. Play was slated to begin the first week of May and last for 5 months. The members agreed to a $500 bond from each club to demonstrate good faith, with capitalization set at $3,000 per team. A follow-up meeting was set for April 10th in Grand Island when the bonds would be due, the teams qualified, and a game schedule adopted. With the success of the March 25th meeting known, the prospects for a tri-state league faded away. This development allowed the Nebraska communities, including Fremont, to focus on securing financing and assembling a team roster. Grand Island quickly mobilized with the aid of the town's streetcar company, which agreed to build the club a playing grounds for use rent-free. Farther west, Kearney called a stockholders meeting for the evening of March 31st. Within days of the meeting, the club released a preliminary roster comprising players drawn from Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, and Michigan. Financing remained an issue, as Kearney was already $500 in the hole from improvements made to the playing field the prior year. Even with this hurdle, the organizers remained upbeat. With the April 10th meeting looming, Lincoln's baseball enthusiasts scrambled to keep pace. Their dialogues with William Pope in February and March had gone well enough that Pope expressed an interest in bringing the Fremont team to Lincoln if the Fremont option fell through. In truth, Fremont's baseball ambitions dimmed with each passing day. Even though Fremont's W.H. Harrison had been elected league president at the March 25th meeting, the city's prospects appeared muted from the start. Its population of 6,715 rendered it the smallest of any city proposed for the new state league. Attempts to finance the club were stymied, with pledges reaching only $1,600 and fundraising subsequently abandoned. Fremont's woes soon became Lincoln's salvation. Pope had emerged as the league's de facto torchbearer following his multi-month odyssey visiting each prospective state league community. The communities he touched were, however, not only geographic in character. As African Americans, Pope and Lewis took pride in their heritage and showed it by actively participating in Omaha's expanding black community, a community that over the prior decade had grown sixfold to nearly 4,700 people. Like so many similar enclaves across the nation, African Americans in Omaha were joining together in advancing the cause for broader economic, political, and social justice. Omaha's first African American newspaper, The Progress, proved central to Pope and Lewis's community commitment. Founded in 1889 by Ferdinand L. Barnett, this weekly publication declared itself, quote, a bold and fearless champion of the Negro race, end quote. Barnett and his paper gave a voice to Omaha's black residents. The Progress sought to cultivate black fraternal organizations, call attention to local black businesses, encourage church membership, advance literary clubs, and endorse black-sponsored financing. In short, there seemed a few things the Progress would not try in order to advance Omaha as well as Nebraska's burgeoning African-American citizenry. The link between black baseball clubs and the nation's swelling African-American urban population was not accidental. Discriminatory practices notwithstanding, baseball as a business enterprise offered African-American entrepreneurs an entree to America's mainstream. The proprietors of the Progress realized this opportunity and welcomed Pope and Lewis into their fold. The paper began reporting on the duo's baseball exploits and, in the process, lent encouragement and media exposure. As early as March 22nd, the Progress reported on Pope's departure to Beatrice in advancing the state league on the success of manager Lewis in having signed all of his baseball players, with expectations for practice beginning in mid-April. The role assumed by the Progress became even more pronounced as the April 10th date approached for the league's second organizing meeting in Grand Island. While the meeting took place as scheduled, it failed to produce the desired results. Poor attendance marred the gathering, with only Lincoln, Kearney, and Grand Island being represented. Hastings sent a letter stating, quote, they were fully organized and secured a club, end quote. Delegates attending the session expressed a warm determination to continue the task and asserted that a 4-team league remained feasible, although 6 would make a much stronger and desirable organization. The delegations from Lincoln, Kearney, and Grand Island each submitted the requisite $500 bond and expressed confidence in the sale of their team's stock. William Pope and A.J. Shepard were asked to continue discussions with Fremont, Hastings, Beatrice, Nebraska City, and Plattsmouth about their participation in the league. Lincoln's baseball prospects appeared heightened when Pope reportedly represented their interests in the April 10th Grand Island meeting. By this point, Fremont's struggles in organizing a viable team were being widely reported, as was the maturing bond between Lincoln's baseball enthusiasts and the Pope-Lewis tandem. Speculation became reality on April 12th when incorporation of the Lincoln Baseball Club was formally announced. Capitalized with $3,000 in stock, the club's incorporation took place under the names of William Pope, James S. Bryant, and A.S. Barnett. This trio reasonably completed the circle between Pope, the Progress, and the Lincoln's team financing. Bryant was the manager-editor of the Progress, and Barnett was the brother of the newspaper owner, F.L. Barnett. As referenced in the Progress, A.S. Barnett and James S. Bryant were Omaha board members of the National Building Loan and Protective Union, with Barnett as secretary-treasurer and Bryant as the group's attorney. The NBL and PU offered Omaha residents locally available financing, with A.S. Barnett serving as one of the 2 local agents. Additional financing for Lincoln's team came from Lieutenant Dick H. Townley and Police Judge Houston, 2 Capital City baseball backers who signed a bond for $500. In its Sunday, May 4th edition, the Daily Nebraska State Journal proclaimed Lincoln's newest professional baseball franchise ready to play ball. As the players assembled in Lincoln that day, they had a mere 2 days of practice before their first game. Stylish brown uniforms had been ordered from the A.G. Spalding Company, the nation's embryonic sports equipment purveyor. Association Park, the community's ball field at 22nd and Randolph Streets, appeared in, quote, excellent condition, with the exception of a few minor defects, which will be remedied, end quote. The club even had engaged rooms and a cook to keep their players at a moderate cost while in Lincoln. Manager William Lewis deserved credit for assembling a quality squad comprised solely of African-American players. The roster's core came from his prior team, the Lafayettes. In addition to himself, the Lafayettes contributed Joseph Kid Miller, Ed Carr, and the brother combination of Hugh and George Eubanks. Lewis also tapped 18-year-old Omaha-born John W. Patterson to play third base. Soliciting black players in nearby states, the Lincoln manager found Frank Maupin and James Hightower in Missouri, William Castone and George Taylor in Colorado, and William Newman in Kansas. The team's reach even went as far as Washington, D.C., with the signing of the outstanding infielder Jesse Brown. All in all, Lewis had a strong and talented collection of baseball men. Lincoln's team stood ready to play. Regrettably, prospects for the State Baseball Association remained less sanguine. Among the cities seeking participation in the new circuit, only Kearney had found success. By the start of May, that city's baseball enthusiasts had committed the necessary financing and assembled a 10-player roster. But try as they might, a 2-team league simply would not be viable. William Pope, however, persisted in his optimism, declaring, quote, that by the 1st of June, the state league will be in shape to begin playing ball, end quote. Grand Island seemed near to having the pieces in place to start play. Pope planned to continue working with Beatrice, Nebraska City, and York to get their clubs in shape. He admitted that Fremont had fallen out of consideration because the city's baseball boosters had set their mark too high and shot too low. With the team in hand, but no league, Pope and Lewis needed to find another team to play. The duo arranged for a 3-game series in Lincoln against the all-white semi-pro Omaha Reserves. With the start time set for 3 p.m. on Wednesday, May 7th, professional baseball marked its return to the capital city. The game began on time with a fair crowd of well-pleased spectators witnessing an exciting struggle between the two clubs. Lincoln struck first with 3 runs in the second, thanks to a hit batter, a base on balls, and a 2-run scoring double by Castone, who would later score ahead of Eubanks as the latter was thrown out at the plate on an attempted inside-the-park home run. The Lincoln squad did not let up, scoring a dozen more runs over the remaining innings to outpace the reserves 15-2. Castone pitched the entire game, allowing the Omaha squad a miserable 2 hits. Lincoln's opening day performance so impressed the editor of the Kearney Daily Hub that he asserted, quote, no team in Nebraska ever played a better game than Lincoln played last Wednesday, end quote. Braving a stiff Nebraska Zephyr, Thursday's game witnessed a marked increase in attendance, with the Omaha Reserves bent on redemption. Former Lafayette's pitcher Kid Miller started on the mound for Lincoln, but after surrendering 10 runs, he was pulled in the 4th inning. The Lincoln Nine fought back, managing a 12-11 win in 10 innings. Intermittent rain postponed the series' 3rd contest from Friday to Saturday, a game in which John Reeves, a newly signed pitcher from Kansas City, led Lincoln to a 5-3 win. Lincoln's baseball cranks judged the professional game back on track, while the Lincoln Daily Call asserted the team, quote, is far superior to the team which represented this city in 1888, end quote. And in its May 11th edition, the Daily Nebraska State Journal christened Lincoln's new team the Giants. The name stuck. Without a ready slate of teams to schedule, Pope and Lewis turned again toward the Missouri River for a team the Giants could play on Monday, May 12th. Council Bluffs willingly put forward its aspiring squad, nicknamed the Nonpareils, for an afternoon matchup in Lincoln. But fate once more dealt the Giants an inauspicious hand. Persistent rains canceled the Nonpareil's trip to Lincoln. Pope hastily scheduled a Tuesday afternoon game against the University of Nebraska's baseball club. Added interest in the game centered around the university's starting pitcher, Frank Woods, who had been instrumental in bringing professional baseball back to Lincoln. While the Collegians made every effort to keep pace, the university squad fell to the Giants by a final score of 7-3. The game's unquestioned highlight was a triple play started by Giants shortstop Jesse Brown, who paired with George Eubanks to complete the maneuver. Afterwards, the Giants hopped on a train to make the 130-mile trek to Kearney. A pair of games had been slated between the only other team that had managed to fulfill the ambition of forming the state league. The Kearney Daily Hub did its best to whip up interest, declaring, quote, "Nearly every person you meet says he's going to witness the game," end quote. The next 2 days validated the Giants' on-field prowess. Lincoln's squad outlasted Kearney in Wednesday's match by a score of 10-9. The game's highlight was a towering home run by the Giants' left fielder George Taylor. The blast so impressed the locals that it, quote, "was greeted with applause in a shower of silver dollars," end quote. On Thursday, Lincoln's crew fell behind early, but home runs by Taylor and Patterson brought the Giants back as they captured the 21-15 victory. Before heading back to Lincoln, the Giants detoured to a diminutive Nebraska town of Ulysses, 40 miles northwest of the capital city. With a population touching 600 residents, the people of Ulysses had organized a baseball association in hopes of attracting quality amateur baseball to their community. In grave need of opponents, Pope scheduled a 2-game series against the novice Ulysses squad. Friday's game went 11 innings with the Giants pulling out an 8-7 win as Lincoln's John Patterson demonstrated his offensive abilities. The Giants posted a complete walkaway on Saturday with a 20-3 victory over the outmanned Ulysses team. Unbeaten and riding a 6-game winning streak, the Giants departed Ulysses at 7:25 p.m. on the last train to Lincoln, having 4 days off before beginning a 3-game rematch against Kearney at Association Park. With the season just beginning, finances and scheduling issues already plagued William Pope and the Giants. The fledgling state league's success, and perhaps ultimately that of the Giants, hung on Beatrice, Nebraska City, York, and Grand Island fielding teams. The deadline for entry into the league slid to July 1st. Pope admitted, quote, "The trouble from the start was that too much money was asked as a guarantee," end quote. His statement came on the heels of a published allegation that the high team entry price resulted because Fremont's W.H. Harrison wanted to keep Lincoln out of the proposed league. Pope's solution called for each team to submit a $500 bond guaranteeing they would play through the season, a lower monthly salary cap set at $650, and a revised formula for allocation of game receipts. With these amended guidelines on the table, Pope kept his optimism alive for survival of the team and the league. About all he could do now was wait. Lincoln's baseball patrons remained hopeful as well. Thursday's upcoming rematch with Kearney foretold of a large crowd. The ball field sported a new well that had been dug to furnish water for sprinkling the diamond. New team uniforms, blue with maroon stockings, belts, and caps, had just arrived, along with a new supply of bats. Even a band was to be on hand. Everything was in place, or so it seemed. Thursday's misfortunes started with the ballpark's streetcar service breaking down, followed by an hour's delay owing to the absence of a scorebook, and concluding with an umpire dispute. When all was said and done, the Giants suffered their first loss of the season, falling to Kearney 12-10. The Giants rebounded the next day on a 10-5 win. Jesse Brown's fielding highlighted the affair, along with a home run by George Taylor. Saturday's series finale went to Kearney by a 6-5 score, thanks in large part to a partisan umpiring, a chronic headache in baseball of this period. The situation was so egregious that after the game, Kearney manager Beardsley and Lincoln manager Lewis agreed to retain the presumed impartial Joseph McCullough to umpire future series between the teams. Because Omaha permitted Sunday baseball games, Pope again engaged that city's reserves for a game on Sunday, May 25th. Held at Omaha Park, Lincoln suffered from poor hitting and came away losers by a 2-1 score. During the final week of May, the Giants managed to play just 2 games. The first, a brisk contest against the University of Nebraska's team, which the Giants took 6-5 in 5 innings, and the second, a shutout of the Omaha Reserves on Friday afternoon before an affable crowd of 1,800 at Association Park. The Giants then closed the month with hard practice work on Saturday. Following a disappointing week, Pope sought reassurance for his team by signing a talented young infielder from Missouri named William Lincoln, announcing a potential series against the Golden Eagles of Kansas City, and hinting at possible Sunday games to be played at Cushman Park, as the venue was located outside the Lincoln city limits. Pope's optimism again proved short-lived. The Giants' troubles began on June 2nd, when the unexplained resignation of the team's originating manager, William Lewis. George Castone took over from Lewis, who agreed to stay with the team to play the outfield. The early June reorganization also included releasing 3 players, Hugh Eubanks, Kid Miller, and William Newman. Newspaper reports suggested the reshuffled roster made the Giants, quote, one of the strongest clubs in the West, end quote. But the changes hinted at another underlying issue. Then on the heels of these moves, the Giants' 4 scheduled games for the week quickly became 2. The Giants won both against the Nonpareils, though they knew playing just 2 games per week spelled doom in the long haul. These squads ultimately would pale in comparison to the week's greater storm. On June 7th, the proposed Nebraska State League was pronounced dead. The Kearney team disbanded, citing the high cost of travel and hotel rooms. Beatrice, Nebraska City, and Grand Island called it quits as well, having failed to raise the necessary funds. Taken together, these developments were devastating for the Giants' prospects. News of the State League's demise was followed by a report in the Lincoln Daily Call concerning the financial difficulties of the Western Association's St. Paul, Minnesota club. Buried in the story lay the statement, quote, Lincoln, Nebraska is anxious to purchase the St. Paul franchise and has money deposited, end quote. Omaha's professional team played in the higher-profile Western Association, and Lincoln's baseball enthusiasts coveted a place in that 8-team league. Might the Giants be St. Paul's replacement team, or were the Giants' days merely numbered? Pope recognized the situation and knew not to stand idle. He said, quote, the Giants are anxious to get a date with any of the Western Association teams, and he offered extra inducements in the way of financial support. While awaiting an answer, the Giants held a benefit game on June 9th against a strong-picked club composed of the best material in the city. That same day, Pope received welcome news as the Omaha Western Association team agreed to engage the Giants in Lincoln on Wednesday, June 11th. Local media dubbed the match the game of the season, with extra ticket booths to be set up to accommodate the rush. An assemblage of 1,200 fans swarmed Association Park when the 2 teams met. The Giants fell to Omaha by a score of 11-5, even though the home team played well and demonstrated they were competitive equals. Riding this encouragement crest, Pope calendared 8 games over the next 10 days, 5 with the Ulysses team, 2 with the Genoa Indians, and a Sunday game in Fremont against the recently assembled town team. While the games were not with renowned squads, the contests produced revenue and kept the Giants on the field. Pope, however, eyed an even greater prize. Among the Western Association's teams, none offered greater attraction to Lincoln fans than Denver's. Dave Rowe, the Denver manager, had served as the player manager for Lincoln's successful 1887 entry into the Western League. He remained hugely popular within Lincoln's baseball community. Rowe fulfilled Pope's wishes by agreeing to a game in Lincoln on Monday, June 23rd. A large and enthusiastic crowd turned out for the late afternoon match. Lincoln's play was brilliant at times, while at other critical times it was not so brilliant. Illness prevented John Patterson, Lincoln's best player, from taking the field, resulting in 3 Giants playing out of position. Patterson's absence and untimely errors culminated in a 12-3 Lincoln loss. While in town, Rowe, quote, expressed himself emphatically in favor of Lincoln trying to secure a place in the Western Association, end quote. The die seemed cast, but in whose favor? During the last week of June, the Giants scheduled just 3 games, all in Lincoln, against the Omaha Reserves. After winning the first game in the series on Thursday, June 26th, manager Castone implored more fans to attend. The public, quote, needed to understand that if they wish the club to exist, better support must be given, end quote. Attendance at the next 2 games remained disappointing, even as the Giants took both contests easily. But on-field performance and lack of fan support were not the Giants' main focus on those days. The Lincoln Evening News warned, quote, the Lincoln Giants, our crack baseball team, is trembling on the verge of the soup tureen, end quote. Financial adversity consumed the team as Pope became increasingly unable to meet the payroll. James Hightower, the Giants' first baseman, who last played a game on June 11th, obtained an attachment from Judge Cochran for Constable Hunger to confiscate the gate receipts, some $40, at the June 27th game. Ex-Giant Hightower denounced Pope and manager Castone for, quote, feathering their nests at the expense of the players, end quote. Castone denied this was true, with the remaining players generally siding with their field manager. Pope responded by revealing that he had arranged a 30-day tour through Iowa for the team, but the players, quote, announced their intention of staying home until their claims were liquidated, end quote. After the June 28th game, Castone unilaterally disbanded the team, although he let it be known that his decision, quote, does not necessarily mean there will be no more ball playing in Lincoln, end quote. Rather, he was working toward a new club that would be immediately organized, composed of the same material. Lincoln newspapers expressed hope the team could survive, saying, quote, the Giants are too good to be dropped, end quote. Lincoln's baseball proponents met on the evening of July 1st to bolster the chances for the team's survival. The next day brought news of Pope's complete divestment from the club, with the Giants being restructured under the cooperative plan, placing the club ownership in common by the players. Castone became, quote, both pitcher and business manager, end quote. Now having more than enough to do, he invited, quote, some enthusiastic capitalists who want to make a mint of money, end quote, to take over management of the team. Hopes emerged for an extended Eastern tour through Iowa, Illinois, Michigan, and possibly New York, with such trips serving to advertise the city of Lincoln far and near. Before the reformed Giants might head east, arrangements were made for the team to take on the Kansas City Haverleys, the acknowledged amateur champions of Kansas City. The 3-game series in Lincoln consisted of a July 4th doubleheader and a single game the next day. The team split the Independence Day twosome as the Giants squandered a 9th-inning lead to lose 10-3, but then came back in the second game with a strong performance and a 10-2 victory. The Giants claimed the July 5th game with a score of 9-8. The team sought to dispel persistent rumors of player disharmony and of the club's demise. Discounting the rumors proved difficult as no games were scheduled and the prospects were few. Reports surfaced that several prominent lovers of the game had rendered substantial aid and that a subscription list was being circulated. After a week without games, the Giants headed to Kansas City to play the Haverleys on Sunday, July 13th. Before, quote, the largest crowd ever to witness an amateur game in the city, end quote, the Giants fell 7-4 as 4 ninth-inning runs sealed Lincoln's fate. Solemnly, the team stayed in Missouri looking for other clubs to play. Lincoln's baseball future soon resided not in Missouri, but in Iowa. On July 15th, the Western Association's Des Moines franchise folded as financial difficulties left the team unable to pay player salaries. Nebraska's capital city seemed destined to be the club's new home, although not without a fight. Skirmishes over the Des Moines team's carcass came not from Lincoln, but from the association's Kansas City franchise, which wanted to raid the Des Moines club's roster. Kansas City manager Jimmy Manning blamed longtime Lincoln Crusader Dave Rowe for the imbroglio. The battle was engaged. During the next 2 weeks, the Giants played just 5 games. Before leaving Missouri, the team won 2 games from the Kansas City Maroons and lost 2 games, one from the Haverleys and one to a team from Missouri Valley. Two discouraged loyalists, George Taylor and Frank Maupin, left the team. The Giants limped back to Lincoln with more hopes than prospects. The Castone-led 1890 Lincoln Giants played their last game July 25th at Association Park against a contingent of 10 strapping young men from Nebraska City. Only 5 of the initial Giants players, including William Lewis, participated in the 7-5 win. Manager Castone placed the Giants' overall 1890 record at 39 wins and just 6 losses, including 2 against Western Association teams. The players soon left town, some signing with other teams and others returning to civilian lives. The university's baseball team held a benefit game on August 1st to raise money for the Giants' talented infielder Jesse Brown so that he might return to Washington, D.C. to be home with his seriously ill mother. 5 former Giants players, including Brown and Castone, played on the university squad to mark the occasion. Lincoln's pursuit of the Western Association's Des Moines team continued, thanks largely to the efforts of Dave Rowe. Following a meeting in early August, the association selected Lincoln over Grand Rapids, Michigan, as the new home of the failed franchise. Following a parade of both teams headed by a band, the new, now all-white Lincoln team's first game took place at Association Park in front of 1,500 fans on the afternoon of August 12th against the Western Association's Milwaukee Brewers. Lincoln's latest entry into the world of professional baseball lost the game by a score of 15-6. Solomon White, the acknowledged father of black baseball historians, crowned Nebraska's 1890 Lincoln Giants, quote, the first colored professional team in the West, end quote, which in those days meant the windswept plains well west of the Mississippi River. Writing in his 1807 groundbreaking book, Solomon White's Official Baseball Guide, White declared this Cornhusker State team, quote, strong in batteries, hard hitters, and fast runners. They were hard to beat unless a strong pitcher was against them, end quote. He believed their on-field performance deserved recognition in black baseball's emergence. White used his Official Baseball Guide to chronicle the exploits of black baseball's pathfinders, which were scattering of professional teams during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, comprised entirely of African Americans. These teams were the foundation for what later became the business of black professional baseball. To those conversant with this period, the teams have familiar names and attendant legendary narratives. They include the Cuban Giants from New York City, the Philadelphia Orions, Page Fence Giants from Adrian, Michigan, the Chicago Unions, Big Gothams from New York, the Boston Monarchs, Philadelphia Giants, and the Brooklyn Royal Giants. While these teams remain legendary, the 1890 Lincoln Giants endure today as little more than a faint, if not completely forgotten footnote in the annals of baseball history. Something about this team, however, impressed the game's most revered early historian and prompted him to include them in his pioneering work. The 1890 Lincoln Giants' deserving, though admittedly modest, place in baseball lore speaks to the events and the tenor of the times. The tenacity and graceful performance of the team's players and founders contributed positively to the ebb and flow of a still evolving professional sport. The Lincoln Giants story sketches a microcosm of the trials facing African American baseball players and teams during the late 19th century. At the same time, their story exposed a vein of communal goodness in the Cornhusker State that should not be lost in the haze of history. During their buoyant, but oftentimes tumultuous existence, the Lincoln Giants fell short of their architect's dream. Money, facilities, scheduling, and prejudice conspired to undermine their ambitions. Even so, there was merit in what they accomplished as a group of men and as individuals. Several Giants players went on to enjoy careers in professional baseball, playing for both integrated and segregated teams, while others returned to their prior lives outside of the game. Ferdinand L. Barnett, the team's principal financier, was instrumental in furthering the interests of Nebraska's African American community. Also in 1890, he played a key role in organizing a convention in Omaha to establish a permanent state league, to address the needs of the colored citizens of Nebraska. Decades later, Barnett was elected to the Nebraska legislature, where he was instrumental in getting an anti-lynching bill passed and signed into law in 1927. The two most conspicuous actors in this drama, William Pope and William Lewis, quietly removed themselves from the game that had first drawn them together. Pope, the team's entrepreneurial spirit, returned to Omaha to open a restaurant and a catering business with his brothers at 315 South 13th Street. They advertised their establishment in the Progress newspaper, promoting their specialty as oysters in every style. Lewis, Pope's stalwart associate, also reclaimed Omaha as his home. Available records show he resumed working as a waiter for various downtown hotels and the Union Pacific Railroad. Thank you for listening to the Nebraska History Podcast. To learn more about Nebraska History Magazine, to listen to more podcast episodes, or to support our podcast by becoming a member of the Nebraska State Historical Society, go to history.nebraska.gov/podcast. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and get notified when we release new episodes on your favorite podcast platform. Until next time, I'm Chris Goforth.